Hey guys, it's the nerd half of this Nerdtroverts duo, and today I'm doing a spring reading wrap-up. Yes, I'm in Australia, and so spring goes from September till November. So most of these books are from October, if I'm completely honest, but I decided to wait until the end of November just to get it all out in one go. So this is going to be a long video. There's like 15 books to talk about. I'll try and get through it as quickly as possible, but you might want to make yourself comfortable. I'm not going to be giving you guys synopsises of all the books simply because there's too many and this is a wrap-up, so it's more about like my thoughts. I know, in wrap-ups you're meant to sort of give synopsis as well, but I didn't that not that long ago in like the hauls that I did. So if you want to know what any of these books are, watch the haul video I did because I talked about pretty much all of them. So the first book that I read is Wanda Smith by Jessica Townsend, which is the sequel to Nevermore. I really loved Wanda Smith. I thought it was great. I jumped right back into the plot of the story. Like I had no problems picking up where we left off. And it's just such like a captivating story. Like the world itself is so beautiful and wonderful and you just want to stay there forever. My only problem with this book was just the adults being like idiotic adults who do like stupid things. And it just kind of felt really old. Like I'm just really tired of that kind of trope. Like I get it, it's a children's story and so like the adults aren't going to necessarily be like the good guys, but they were just so frustrating in this book, like holy crap. But other than that, I really loved Wanda Smith and I cannot wait to read the next book. The next book that I read is The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. This book took me a bit to finish because I kept kind of like reading it in chunks and it took me a while to like end up reading a lot at once. This book isn't at all what I was expecting it was going to be, but it was brilliant and it was wonderful and I really enjoyed it. Like I don't have much else to say other than I really enjoyed it. The next book that I read is Nine from the Nine Worlds by Rick Riordan. This is sort of like side stories, extra stories from the Magnus Chase and the Gods of Asgard series. This book was cute. I missed Magnus. I wish Magnus was sort of featured in these stories and he's not, and you sort of get stories from everyone else, which was great. Like I loved reading stories from everyone else in Magnus's life, but like, come on, Magnus. I don't have much to say about this. Like it was easy to get into. It's Rick Riordan. Like his writing is literally coming home for me. So I had no problems getting into this. There was like only one story I really took issue with, but that was just like a personal thing. It had nothing to do with writing or story or anything like that. Like this is just like a great side book. And yeah, there's not really much else to say about it because it's not a massive book. The next book that I read is Percy Jackson and the Sea of Monsters. Does this tell you how long I've been waiting to film this wrap up yet? I did a vlog on my thoughts of this a while ago. If you want to see that, it will be linked somewhere, I'm sure. But Sea of Monsters, Rick Riordan, Percy Jackson, like I have no complaints. No complaints. I loved my reread of this. I cannot wait to finish up my reread of Percy Jackson. Hopefully by the end of the year, fingers crossed. The next book that I read was Renegades by Marissa Meyer. I was very much surprised by how much I enjoyed this book because it is quite heavily political and I don't usually go for that, but this political arc was written so wonderfully. I didn't even know who I was siding with 90% of the time, and our protagonists, because there's two, are both so like set in their ways and so sure that their side is right that like I'm getting two very biased point of views and I don't know who to trust. Who is being honest? Who is actually in the right? I still don't know and I cannot wait to like continue on. But yes, very happy with this book. I highly recommend you read it. The next book that I read is The Tyrant's Tomb, which is the fourth Trials of Apollo book written by Rick Riordan. Again, Rick Riordan, easy as anything to jump back into. I really love the story. Apollo has become so much better of a protagonist. Hallelujah. He sucked so much in the first book, I'm sorry. I was not about Apollo in the first couple books, but by this book, really enjoyed it. We get to go to the Roman camp and sort of see what's happening there. And I still take issues with some of the things the Roman camp does, but like that's just like a whole different thing. Overall, really enjoyed this book and I'm very excited for I think the final installment, which hopefully is next year. We'll find out. The next book that I read is It Sounded Better in My Head by Nina Kenwood. I actually borrowed this book from a friend and then liked it enough that I went out and bought it, so there's some sort of ground of how much I liked it. I'm pretty conflicted on this book overall. Like the writing was good and I enjoyed the story, but there were so many moments that like I cringed really hard. I like wanted to put the book down. Like it's a very awkward book, but it's not a bad book. And it is by an Australian author. It is set in Australia, so it's a lot easier for me to sort of like connect to it. But overall, I still don't know. It's been months. I still don't know how I feel about this book. I don't have an answer. It wasn't bad. I enjoyed it. would not read it again or necessarily recommend it. The next book that I read is Before I Let Go by an author whose name I'm going to butcher the pronunciation of. Bear with me. Mariek Nijkamp. I didn't mind this book. Like, it was fine. I blew through it in one day. Like, I just sort of sat down and just read it for the whole day. And I didn't dislike it, but I didn't necessarily like it. My overall takeaway is, like, if you already own the book, read it, it's fine. If you don't own the book, don't buy it. Like, it's not great, and there's just a few issues. There was an asexual protagonist, which surprised me, but other than that, it was just kind of nothing. Like, there was a plot and it was interesting enough that I read it, but not so interesting that I'd go out and buy this book on my own. The next book that I read is Eliza and Her Monsters by Francesca Zappia. I really enjoyed this book. I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about it because I had high hopes, but every time I've had high hopes for a book, it's let me down. But this one didn't, which was very nice and surprising. It also was sort of like mixed media, I guess. There's a lot of artwork throughout it because our protagonist is a very famous artist, like online, not necessarily in person, and so you get to see a lot of the artwork that she does, which was really, really cool, and I enjoyed it. Other than that, the book itself, like, the plot was interesting. There were a few moments that, like, really irked me and, like, kind of gave me the shits, but overall I enjoyed it. I'm glad I read it, and yeah, I'd read it again. Probably once I've forgotten more of the plot, I'd read it again for sure. I found the love interest to be great for a long time, and then he kind of sucked for a bit, and then he was good again. But that's like a character flaw, so I get it, and I'm okay with it. So I guess I don't really have a problem with anything in this book. Like, it wasn't fantastic, blew me away, wonderful story, but it wasn't bad either. Like, it was a good book, and I enjoyed it, and that's my takeaway from it. The next book that I read is The Titan's Curse by Rick Riordan, which is the third Percy Jackson book. Another vlog of this book is also available on my channel. On this channel, if you're wondering. This is my favorite of the series, and that still stands true. I love this so much. I have nothing but praise for this book. And if you want to know any of my thoughts, just watch the vlog because that'll be a lot easier. Like, I love it. There's nothing wrong with it ever. I love Rick Riordan and Percy Jackson, and yeah. The next book that I read is Red, White and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. This book is like the newest romance to like hit the shelves. Like, everyone is reading it, everyone is loving it. I am also someone who has read it and loved it. This book is amazing. I love it so much. The romance is just beautifully done. I have no complaints. Highly recommend this book. It is the like royal AU with like every like couple you've ever wanted. The next book that I read is The Dream Thieves by Maggie Stiefvater, which is the second Raven Boys book. Again, really loved this book. It took me a while to get into it again, like not necessarily plot wise, or there were a few things I was like, wait, what was that? But overall, I still really enjoyed it. I had this problem where like I was not being told enough information to understand the plot for like a good while, but eventually I got there, and by the end I was loving it. I am so excited to continue this series. Like, I need the next book. Again, I just need the next book. The next book that I read is Arch Enemies by Marissa Meyer, which is the sequel to Renegades. As I said before, I absolutely loved Renegades. Arch Enemies was no different. It was a lot more like political based heavy. There was less action, the sort of like action in like the first 10 pages and like the last 10 pages. Like, everything else is like very political, but it was done really well that like I didn't even notice that nothing else was really happening except for like political stuff, and that's really cool. The character development was really good. I'm very excited for the last book, and I have nothing else to say except I cannot wait to read the last book. The next book that I read is A Study in Charlotte by Brittany Cavallero. I wasn't sure what I was going to think of this book, but I was very excited to read it, and it did not let me down. It wasn't exactly what I was picturing, but it was better. Charlotte and Jamie are just so interesting as the descendants of Sherlock and Watson. Like, I have no complaints. I think that they're wonderful, and I'm very excited to continue on with this series. Also, I did not guess who, well, I did guess who like the murderer was, but like I didn't guess it all, which is exciting when like you were right, but like holy crap, you didn't expect that. Like, that was a nice thing that happened. Does that make sense? Like, you know who it's gonna be, like you guess who you suspect, but you don't know why they do it. And then when you find out why, you're like, oh, that makes perfect sense. I'm thoroughly satisfied. And that's how I felt with this. Just very satisfied, very happy with how it all went. We did it, guys. We're on the last book, and it is The Bronze Key by Cassandra Clare and Holly Black. This is the third book in the Magisterium series, and it was fine. It wasn't necessarily great. Like, I'm going to continue on with the series, but I kind of forgot a lot, and again have forgotten a lot about the plot and the characters. But I still want to continue. Like, I still kind of like the overall plot. That's it. We did it. I blew through all of the books that I mentioned, and that is because I didn't do synopsis, because that takes up like all of my time. If I have mentioned a book and you want to know more about it, comment and I'll tell you more about it. But other than that, those are my overall general thoughts about all of the books that I've read from like July till now. And hopefully I do a lot more reading in December, so I can do like an end of year wrap up that's just December and not like the whole year like I did, was it last year, the year before, where I did like the massive wrap up. Yeah, let's try not to do that next year. But yes, thank you for watching. Please watch other videos on this channel if you have liked anything about this, and hopefully there will be better videos up soon and not whatever the hell this was. It's been a crazy day for me, but I still needed to film. So here we are. But anyway, I will see you guys next time. Bye!